What's going on, you YouTubers? It's the greatest noob, T-Bird325, and right now we have, I forgot your name.
Hey, it's KingTim187, and I'm about to do my deck profile of KMP, which is the Karakuri Machina Plant deck. This is my version of the deck, and you may not agree with it, but hey, this is how I play. Alright, we're going to start off with the monsters. First up, we got freaking the Karakuri Watchdog. Only one run of him, and main reason being is the number of tuners that I actually run in this deck. I run around 13 tuners total. It may seem like a lot, but if you play the deck, you'll see you synchro very fast, very hard, very quickly. Next up, you got Strategist. This is probably one of my favorite cards in the entire deck. I've screwed over so many people throughout the day with this, especially my good friend Brian, Trish. They did not like this card very much at all. Next up is Kick. His effect is self-explanatory. Knock a monster off, go get Strategist back out of the graveyard, and start the fun all over again. Next up is Kamachi. Kamachi, believe it or not, he has to be the boss of this entire deck. He kicks off so many combinations, and he kicks off all the synchros all by himself. And I'm going to tell you a little bit later on what he does next. Alright, next up is the Machina portion of it. It comes out with your basic staples of Fortress and Gear Frame. I do run trips of a lot of monsters up in this deck, but incidentally during game 2, sometimes I take out a Gear Frame and I take out a Fortress depending on what I'm playing up against. I replace those guys out. Next up, you have your basic staple plants. Dandy, Lone Fire, Glow Up, and of course Spore. Glow Up Bulb today was definitely my MVP of the plants. I don't know, he always came exactly when I needed him and worked out just great for me. Alright, and last up for the monsters is Effect Veiler. I gotta admit, the Effect Veiler, I kind of wanted to take him out altogether. I really didn't get a chance to use him maybe twice out of the 7 rounds that I got a chance to play in. And we'll talk about that later. But Effect Veiler really didn't come into that much use for me. Majority of times I tried to side him out. Alright, for the spell card lineup, you got your basic staples: Dark Cold, Monster Reborn, Heavy, and I do play with Trip Misties. Majority of times I do keep them in. Hey, I don't like back rows, especially when you got Solemn Warning, Solemn Judgment, and when you synchro as hard as this deck does, you need to get rid of those back rows. So 3 Misties, my suggestion, you definitely want to kill those back rows. Next up, Machine Duplication. I've had a lot of complaints today about why I run this card. You play Strategist, you do Machine Duplication, and you combine it with the favorite card of the day, Instant Fusion. I do run trips of them. I only run 2 Cyber Sources in my extra deck, and we'll get to that later. But that third Instant Fusion, an event that I don't play with or don't use it, I ditch it off with Notori Landos, which I'll talk about in my extra deck a little later. Next up, we're playing Machine, so limit to remove, self-explanatory. Foolish Barrel. If you're playing plants, you should have a Foolish Barrel in there somewhere. And of course, 1 for 1. Last up for the spells, Pot of Avarice. This card has saved my butt so much today, especially when I run into that random Mirror Force that I can never seem to guess when it's coming. And when you swarm with 4 or 5 synchros, Pot of Avarice, you want to have that. Send those 5 synchros back to your extra deck. Draw 2 brand new cards without even touching your deck at all. And my trap card lineup is pretty simple, really small. I got Mirror Force and Torrential. I believe those are basic staples. You should have a minimum of those 2 in the deck anyway. And then of course I run the Solemn Brigade. Next up for the side, and I'll explain why I run the side, Royal Decree. This card originally was not even supposed to be in my side deck at the start of the tournament, but thanks to my good friend Philip, Holy Cheetos, he had mentioned about Chain Burn throughout the day and said, hey, the only thing that he would worry about is Royal Decree, and it crossed my head, I might want to have Royal Decree from there. And leave it to me, round 1, I faced against Chain Burn. Royal Decree saved my butt. Next up, Fossil Dyna. Probably the only card today that I didn't actually play with. Thunder King effect. Reason for playing with it, self-explanatory. It kills so much stuff. He's the meta killer. So if you don't got me in your side deck or your main deck, something's wrong. DD Warrior Lady. My main reason for this is to get rid of Zen mains. I ran into them once or twice a day. DD Warrior Lady got rid of that without too many issues. I run Trip the Bunk because of the massive push that I get with my synchros and how quickly I can OTK. The main issues that I run into: Effect Veiler, Max C, Gorge, Tragodia, Battle Fader, Swift Scarecrow when I was facing against Chain Burn. This saved me a lot, got rid of a lot of main problems so I can get that big push for the win. Gonza Match. This card has been beautiful all day long. I sided in every single game because it shuts down everybody. I have not played against anybody today who did not get hurt by Gonza Match. And finally, I have Chain Disappearance. Main focus for this one is the Insectors. I didn't have any problems with freaking windups. 6 Sams, they got hurt pretty bad by them, and everybody else was pretty good. But Chain Disappearance, great card to side in. Last up for the extra deck. First up, Catastrophe. Effect self-explanatory. Main reason why he's in here is because he's a machine, and it gives me another synchro bait for my Karakuris. Naturi Landos. He was the MVP of all the synchros. He killed everything, and he distracted all of my opponents. So every time he came out on the field, they ignored the rest of my synchros and went straight for him. So that he was a big plus in the deck. Then you got Stardust, reason self-explanatory. Hyper Librarian, Bry, Armory Arm, and of course Formula Synchron. You're running plants, Formula's got to be up in there. Armory Arm, it gives me more synchro bait, and I also got a big push for a game, one of my game wins with Armory Arm and Bry in that combination. Next up, my 2 Cyber Sources for instant fusion. And then finally, we have Karakuri Shogun and Steel Shogun. And as you can see, I did not have a Trish in my extra deck, and this was a mistake. I was not paying attention when I built the deck and realized I did not have a Trish in there. I also didn't have a Colossal Fighter in there. It probably would have been pretty useful to have today. But that's my build of the KMP Karakuri Machine Plants. Did pretty well today, 3 and 4. Considering I didn't play test the deck at all, I built it the night before the tournament and just ran it in round 1. So all in all, it did pretty good. A lot of self-inflicted wounds during the games, but all in all, the deck did exactly what it was supposed to do. It swarmed, it beat down people, and it got hit by Mirror Force a couple times. But that's my deck. This is KingTim187. Peace.